Hello and welcome. This is Michele Christensen of One Noteworthy Life, and this is a Plan With Me video for August 2018. I'm filming on a Windows machine using OneNote for Windows 10. I'm going to walk you through how I evaluate the past month and how I set up for the next month. Now, I myself am an avid OneNote fan, and I use OneNote to keep just about every area of my life, big and small, organized and moving forward. I'm a YouTube creator, blogger at OneNoteworthyLife.com, and I host the OneNote Bullet Journal Facebook group. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to mention one thing, because it kind of sidetracked my plans and goals for June, July, and probably August as well. So this is my companion dog, Danny. He died in early July at the age of 12. And, if you've ever been through this, you know it can be hard. So as you'll see, I did not get much done or much accomplished in July in terms of my plans and goals. But, life happens and we just deal with it. So on to my Plan With Me video. So the first thing I do is I review the prior month. I set up a page with goals on it, and then I make a copy of that page so that I can add comments and, evaluations about how I'm doing and if I'm making that goal and that kind of thing. So this right here was literally the first thing I wrote for July, was to be gentle and flexible because this is a hard time. And it really was, especially the first few weeks right after Danny died. So I wanted to just have that front and center as a reminder to not expect too much for this month. So let's see. So my first actual goal for July was to have a calorie deficit every day of 180. And I had gained some weight last year, so I'm working on getting back to my ideal healthy body weight. And for me, I like to change things very gradually. It seems to work well. So I hit this goal really easily. I was at an average of negative 238 for the month. So I'm going to go way up in August, or go up at least. So my sleep has been an ongoing area of focus, and I have littler items of focus under the broad topic of sleep. So one of them is to not use my tablet before bed, like when I'm in bed getting ready to go to sleep. I had gotten into a very bad habit of using my tablet, sometimes for even an hour or more, to play games and read and surf the web, and it's just not conducive to good sleep. So I had been working on dialing down that habit, and I had actually done pretty well on it. And I didn't really track this in the month of July, but I did try not to fall too far backwards on this habit, because even though, I was in a period of grief and stress, it's still not good to fall back on unhealthy habits to deal with those things. The same way somebody shouldn't use, drugs or alcohol or something. Other unhealthy habits are not good ways to cope with grief and stress either, and this was an unhealthy habit for me. So I think I did pretty good. Another area of focus with respect to my sleep is bedtime. So I wanted to try and get to bed at least half the time on time. And again, I didn't track this, but I think I did pretty well. I was conscious of it and tried not to stay up super late. Another ongoing focus is to identify why I don't get to bed on time when that happens. And so I am trying to kind of work backwards from that and figure out what went wrong earlier in the day that kept me up too late. And again, it was just more of something to think about this month as opposed to something I really took action on. So overall, I think I did pretty well on these habits. Like I said, I didn't track it, but I did try not to fall back too far in this difficult month. And if you've never seen this part of my Plan With Me video, I write the original goal is in black, and then the colored comments, the green in this case, are my comments and assessments on how I'm doing. So I did have this personal project with these bonds that I have, and I didn't do it, so enough said. Another ongoing focus was to prune my daily setup. I feel like I just have too many things open, too many tasks in my current view, too many balls in the air, that kind of thing. And so my whole theme for 2018 is to try and prune that down so I feel more in control, have less going on, and that kind of thing. So let's see. One of the things I wanted to focus on is doing more things right away. So instead of getting something new and then processing it, figuring out which list to put it on or whatever, I just do it right away. And that's actually been working pretty well. I kind of like having things just done and off my plate without even having to write them down. So I wanted to focus this month on having a daily to-do list of no more than 10 items. Anything beyond 10 gets a little bit unrealistic for me. And even with 10, usually a few get carried over to the next day, but at least 10, I can kind of visualize that and see that. And I will say that I've done pretty well on this. Most days, my daily to-do list has 10 items on it or less. So I have in the background just this running to-do list, and it just kind of got created not very conscientiously, so it's kind of just hanging out there, and I want to get rid of that and kind of put those items where they belong or do them. I wanted to do that in July. I didn't do it, so hopefully I'll get to that in August. I have been thinking about a more structured daily routine to remove some of the decision making that I do throughout the day. This is still in the thinking process. Most of my days are just really, really different from day to day, so it's really hard to set any set structure that's going to be applicable to a lot of days. But I'm thinking about it. And I also want to start doing some setup the night before. And so I have been doing this. Part of my bedtime routine now is to take a look at the calendar and see if I need to do anything first thing in the morning or anything I need to be aware of, someplace I might need to be that I might not think of the day before. And I also set up how I envision the day flowing, like the bigger events. If I'm going to go out and do errands, what time am I going to do that? What time am I going to exercise? What time am I going to walk the dogs and that kind of thing? And so that's been helping. That's been, I think, pretty good. I had a goal to create 5 videos in July. That did not happen. And I've been working on catching up and being more consistent with my daily habits. So I have just lots of little daily habits that I like to do, and they're just things that kind of keep my house neat and clean, make sure I stay on top of the mail, and that kind of thing. And I just wasn't being very consistent with doing them. So I want to work on catching up and being more consistent. And I made some progress this month, so I'm pretty pleased with that, all things considered. So I'm going to try a little more catching up in August. So when I review my prior month, I like to add this section called What Else? And this is just a free-form section where I can add anything that happened, good, bad, or indifferent, anything that had an impact on how the month went, or whether I made my goals, whether I did better, whether I did worse. And in this month, really, the only thing that I wrote down was that Danny died. And, it was really hard. So, pruning. Pruning is my theme for 2018. I feel like, I kind of mentioned this earlier, that I have too much going on, too many projects, too many tasks, and I spend too much time kind of managing that, bundle of information. So I'm working on pruning things and getting things to be more simple and streamlined. So one of the accomplishments I had during the month of July is that both my work and personal email inboxes are at 0. So during the month, I got them both to 0, and I've been keeping them at 0 most days. And I really like this because it makes it so easy to look at your email. You can see exactly what's new and deal with it, and it's pretty easy to just look at a handful of emails and just deal with them. But when you've got hundreds, because you've let it stack up, or for me, I should say, when I've let it stack up, it becomes very daunting. So I really like having that at 0, and I feel like that's just right in line with this whole pruning process. So now my next thing is I'm thinking, like, how can I clear other email folders? So I have some folders with emails stacked up of things I want to read, or emails that require a small action item that's not urgent, but they've really stacked up over time. So I want to start thinking about how I can clear those out. Another part of my monthly review is to look at my annual plan. So this is what I thought I would be doing in July when I set up my annual plan. And the items in orange are the items that I thought I would be doing this month. And when I set up July, I intentionally decided not to add anything from the annual plan. Neither of these items is really urgent or anything, and I felt like I had plenty enough on my plate to deal with, and I didn't want to add anything from the annual plan, so I just didn't do it. And the final piece of reviewing my prior month is I like to show my calendar. So as you can see, I don't really use this to keep appointments or anything. I just kind of, most days I write down something good that happened, but I've kind of evolved it into maybe just something interesting or something like that. And it gives me a chance to practice my doodle skills, and I like kind of having this reminder of all the good things that happened during the month or things that happen. So that's it for July. Let's move into August. So my first thing that I wrote in my August goals was to continue to be forgiving of myself, and that grief happens on its own time. You can't really rush it, and the only way through grief is to literally go through it. There's not really any way to shortcut it or anything, so I want to just continue to not push myself through that too hard. So my calorie goal for August is to have a daily average of -210, so I'm pretty stoked about that. I'm going to continue my tablet-free bedtime habit, and so my goal is Saturdays and 2 other days, and I think that's a pretty good final destination on that. I feel like that's, just enough days that I can enjoy playing around with my tablet, but not so much that it's a sleep, impediment. I am going to continue tracking this maybe for another month or two, though, because I don't want to backslide on that. So, the other thing I want to do is focus on bedtime again this month. I'm going to try that same goal of getting into bed 50% of the time, on time. We'll see how we do. So I do want to do the next step in that bonds project. And then in terms of pruning my daily setup, I'm going to continue on doing things right away when I can. By the end of the month, I still want to focus on that not having more than 10 items, because I'm good on that most days, but it does creep sometimes. So I want to think about, really 10 is the max. I do want to get rid of that sort of miscellaneous running list by the end of the month. I want to continue to think about more structure in my daily routine, and continue doing some of that setup the night before. My content goal is for 4 videos in August, and daily habits, I want to continue to work on catching up and being more consistent. I just find with those habits that they really help. They seem small individually, but they really help keep, my house kind of orderly, my paperwork, miscellaneous random tasks, and that kind of thing. It just helps keep everything sort of, caught up, current, and in good shape. From my annual plan, this is what I expect to be working on in August. My business license is due at the end of the month, so I want to make sure to get that in on time. We have 2 family birthdays this month, and I want to start working on my vacation plans, so that's pretty exciting. I don't have any dates yet, but I hope to keep making progress on that. The last thing I do for my August setup is to insert a calendar, and you can see some of the days are already filled out on this because I am filming this actually pretty late in the month. So, yeah. Normally I like to get these Plan With Me videos out a little bit earlier, but like I said, with Danny and everything, it's been a hard run. So speaking of Danny, I just want to remind you, in case you need to hear it, to be compassionate towards yourself when you need it. I think it's great to have goals and to work hard and to push yourself, but it's also really important to cut yourself some slack when you need it. And I know I struggle with this, so just in case that's helpful to you, I wanted to remind, myself, and, if you need it as well, to just be compassionate with yourself when you need it. So, that's it. I'm all set up for August, and just in case it seems like I spend an awful lot of time planning, it doesn't take that long. It takes maybe an hour to 2, but I spread it over a few days. But the payoff is so worth it, in my opinion. I just see my life getting better month after month. I'm reaching my goals. I'm setting new ones. And doing this process helps me to see what I'm actually doing with my time and how I'm moving my life forward, and not just letting months slip away without paying attention to how I'm spending my time. So I do really think it's worth it. And if you think this process or a process like it might be helpful to you, I encourage you to just give it a try. And if you're already doing it, maybe think about what else you could expand to include in your process. And if I can be of any help to you in that process, feel free to reach out and let me know. So if you have any questions or comments or something you want to see in more detail, you can leave those in the comments portion below. And if you're watching on YouTube, I would love it if you hit the thumbs up button so I know you like this. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye-bye.